Hey guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon master this evening. Tonight, we are going to be kicking off a very short campaign playing Deadlands Noir. So tonight's session will take us to the dark and gritty streets of the Big Easy in the 1930s. With me, as always on Wednesdays, are our two regular fixtures of the Wednesday night podcast. First off, Jeffrey.
Hey, everybody.
And Steve-O.
Good evening.
So, guys, why don't you tell us quickly, before we log on to Roll20, who are you playing tonight?
Well, I'm playing Butch, the one-armed gambling hall running thug.
Yep.
Nice. And I am playing Professor Malachi McSorley, an inventor with curious properties.
Yes, he does. All right, so let's fuss around with the cameras and such here and get ourselves into Roll20. So I need to get the sharing screens going. Boom, share, and present to everyone.
I like the David Lynch soundtrack in the background.
Yeah, thanks. I really wanted to have something genre appropriate for the session tonight, so let me what am I doing here? Reconnect.
I'll try to talk like a character from Twin Peaks.
Which would be appropriate for this setting. So what I was going to do, guys, is just so you know, I was going to be running the adventure out of the DM screen, but I've actually changed my mind because I think what I'd like to do is try and do just some short ones. Since we've only got 2 weeks with this setting, I'm using some of the shorter adventures that are included in the core book. So for those listening at home, if you intend to play any of any Deadlands Noir, tonight might contain some spoilers for some of the minor adventures that are included in the core book. But to be honest, there's so many of them in there that it certainly won't spoil the majority of the book or anything close to that for you guys. So let's see here. I'm getting feedback from somebody. Somebody has their.
Oh, my music. It's playing through my TV. Probably.
Okay, that's probably why. Yeah.
I'll just turn it down.
Okay. And let's see here. Okay, great. So the map you see there is the map of New Orleans, and where you guys are sort of operate your gambling game. Because as a reminder, why don't you guys tell me and whoever's listening at home what the sort of setup with what the deal is with your guys. What are one-armed Butch and Professor, what the fuck's his name?
Malachi McSorley.
Yeah.
Well, Professor. Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
All right. Professor Malachi McSorley. I'm not sure how much to give away. He is an ex-Mormon who sort of had funny ideas and wasn't really accepted by his clan. Mm-hmm. But he. And also he took some of their sort of more occult teachings and went different directions with it and started communicating with other spirits and so on that helped to teach him how to create certain inventions. And he has been looking for sources of income so that he can fund his mad science. And he's got a couple of inventions that are helping him with that.
Did you read anything about the setting? Is that where the Mormon thing comes from?
No, it's just because Malachi is a bit of a Mormon name.
Oh, okay. No, it's cool because the Mormons are actually there's in the Deadlands setting. Salt Lake City is actually, and I'm going on a rough recollection here. Salt Lake City is sort of like the headquarters for one of the major sort of mad scientist groups in, or like mad scientist full stop, called Darius Hellstrom.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I actually might be wrong now that I say it, but I know the Mormons play a pretty significant role in Deadlands. So I thought that's maybe where you got it from, but no, that's cool. Okay. And Jeff.
Yeah, so Butch is he's a gambler at heart. He's sort of a tough guy by profession, and he's hooked himself up a gig. I can't remember the name of the guy's casino.
It's Fat Dan Waller, and it's
Fat Dan.
Old Absinthe House.
So Butch runs a poker game in the evenings or at night there at Fat Dan's in a back room. And sometimes he plays, but he's always there running it.
Yep. And then, Steve, Professor McSorley is involved in a capacity there too, right? With your mind-reading device?
Yes, he's looking for opportunities to use his special powers to make a little money.
Well, and I think we said last session too, you had created a some kind of
mind reading device.
Well, no, but you also created something else, but that was because of the assistance of the devil.
Right. Well, both things are created because of the assistance of the devil, and the other thing was my bolt blasting gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So tonight's session opens. I guess. Well, I've got that. I actually hold on. I can't hear the music right now. Let me see what's going on. Is it playing? Yeah, it's playing. Oh, it's just quite quiet by comparison.
Pretty loud on mine.
Yeah, I think I cranked the sound on mine. I don't know why it's turned down. I think probably so the audio can be picked up clearer rather than the the music. So the scene opens on a mostly empty street. This is in in a part of town that has all old European-looking buildings, but there are hanging plants and vines that hang off them like cobwebs. And there's a light mist that drifts through the streets. And the only light that really is illuminating the cobblestone streets is this flashing neon sign that says the Old Absinthe House. And as the doors open, we see two gentlemen come spilling out. It's clearly quite late because most of the rest of the French Quarter is deathly silent. And it's just the two of you leaving at the end of a very, very long night of running your card game. Now, the French Quarter is located right in the middle here. That's where I'm pinging there. And I think that you guys are not well off, so you probably live in like Treme, which is just a few blocks north of that, or maybe Storyville, which is right next to the adjacent to the French Quarter, because you guys are Borough Oak. And I don't think either of you owns a vehicle, do you?
No.
That's great.
No chance.
So you guys stagger, get out, and the night has kind of a it's got a quite eerie sort of feel to it. The streets of the French Quarter are normally packed with people, but this particular night you find it empty, and all you can hear is sort of the sounds of people who are up far later than they should be elsewhere in the French Quarter, but it's muffled as if coming from quite far away. Do you think you guys live fairly close to each other? You're broke, so I mean.
Yeah, maybe we live in the same kind of dump.
Sure. So you start making your way, as is normally your custom on the weekends. You start making your way back to your place in. I'm going to say it's in Treme, because I think Treme is more like even more of a slum in this version of New Orleans than what Storyville is. So you start making your way out towards the edge of the northern edge of the French Quarter. There's a cab that kind of zooms past you guys. It's light, carrying some kind of occupant, and you can hear them laughing as they approach, and then it dies off into and swallowed by the swirling fog. As you're making your way along, you can find you're passing the legs of drunks that poke out from darkened alleyways, and you can hear people, muttering about something in a very secretive manner in other doorways as you pass them. Darkened, shadowed figures spare you a look and trying to determine if you're gonna try and take whatever it is they've got by force, but then they go back to whatever business it is that they're engaged in. You get to where your tenement is, and I think that it's got a really overgrown garden out front, and it's not like a vegetable garden or something like that, but like the kind of creepy Baroque garden that you sort of picture from like the Garden of Good and Evil, or Vampire the Masquerade, or Pelican Brief. Like I'm trying to think of video of films that have featured New Orleans in it. The light, of course, has burned out in the yard, but you're not ever. You're not terribly concerned with ever being set upon. I think probably word has gotten around that the two of you are not really someone to mess around with. And it's around that time. So as you're making your way, you creak the old gate open, and you look off to the side as you're walking through along the path, and in the bushes, there's someone who is struggling to get to his feet. And he looks up at you guys, and you can only see really roughly his form. It's a man, judging by the size, and he's got some kind of, it's not a jacket on, but he's got some kind of article of clothing tied around his front, and you can see that there's a sheen where the partially obscured moon, the moonlight coming down, reflects off of his bald head. And he looks up at you guys, and the moonlight catches the whites of his eyes, and he's got kind of a wild, fearful look, and he says, please help me. What do you do?
Do I recognize him?
No, you don't actually.
What seems to be the trouble?
And he seems genuinely perplexed. I can't remember.
I'll reach down and stand him up.
Sure. So you help him up to your feet, and Butch, you're a really big dude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he probably stands about maybe 5'10", and as he stands up, you can see that he's got there's a Band-Aid on his bald head. His head is perfectly smooth, but he's quite young for a cue ball kind of look. He's probably in his maybe late 20s, early 30s. He's wearing trousers and some shoes, but he has a hospital gown, a blue hospital gown, across his chest and tied around back.
Is it from a hospital that I recognize? Is there a name on it or anything?
Sure. We'll take if you take a look at the tag. The tag identifies it as belonging to the New Orleans Hospital for Mental Diseases.
I look at the doc and I say, seems we got a nutter.
So it does. This could be a good chance to try one of my new toys.
And he says, I'm not crazy. I don't remember. And I'm in danger, but they're coming. That's what I remember.
Who's coming?
And he looks like he's struggling. I can't remember.
I think I'd like to try something.
Well, let's bring him back to your place, Doc.
Okay.
Come along, and I sort of am like pushing him along with us.
Okay. He quite happily comes along with you guys. You walk inside, and where the outside is quite quiet, there is still noise from inside. Someone somewhere is playing a trumpet, and someone else is screaming at that person to shut the fuck up and go to bed. But this is fairly typical for your house, or where you guys find yourself. You make your way down to the two kind of flats or squats at the far end of this building, and those are the two rooms that you guys have each rented. There is a water closet on this floor that is shared by everyone, but each of you has your own, effectively like a studio apartment kind of thing. So you guys open into Professor McSorley's room, and what does it look like, Steve?
It's pretty barren. It's got some sparse articles of furniture, but then there's articles of electronics and sort of bits and pieces of this and that lying around all over the floor and stuff like that.
Okay. There's maybe like a Jacob's ladder there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So as you go in, this man looks around and says, "Are you a doctor?"
Of a kind.
Butch closes the door behind them and then sort of stands by the door.
Okay.
I bring the gentleman over and to clean off one of the seats and invite him to sit in it.
He compliantly sits down, sort of adjusts his hospital smock, and then he's kind of looking. He's quite intrigued by the Jacob's ladder, and you can see it's reflected, lightning arc in his eyes, and to a degree on his bald head as well.
Good, yes. Just look at the arcs and think about what it is that is troubling you. And I'd break out my little mind reading device and I try to stick it up. I'm going to try to stunt it to see if I can sort of read his memories a little bit and read what he's sort of afraid of.
Okay, so I think you're trying to mind read. I don't think you actually need to stunt it because guess what mind reading allows you to do, doesn't it?
Right.
So go ahead. Once you click on, do we have your? I actually don't remember if we've got your power filled in there, but I think you did fill that in.
Yeah. How do we fill it in? Voltronic jumper. Oh no. Mental conductor.
I believe that is the one. Yeah.
Do I just click on it?
I'm trying to find where it is here. Where are you seeing it? Well, first you need. Okay, so you do need to make a weird science roll to activate it.
Right. Okay.
Right under. Oh, I see here under Arcanum. Yeah.
So weird science.
Actually, if you yeah. Ooh.
What do we get there?
That's great. So your wild die exploded. So remember, guys, just as a refresher for how things work in Savage Worlds. Savage Worlds has a difficulty, or the target number is, unless I say otherwise, is a 4. And then every 4 over that 4 that you roll is a raise. So what you roll there, Steve-O, is 1 raise.
Nice.
So you roll both of those and you take the highest of the 2. And let's see here. What does it say for your... I think if you click on... here. If you click on the... No, that condenses it. I actually don't know if you can display this power or not. No, that just closes it. Whoop, open up. Yeah, maybe you can't.
Doesn't look like it.
No. Okay, so let's just take a read here. What it says is allows you to read another character's thoughts. It's an opposed roll versus the target's smarts. I'm going to allow him to... He's going to automatically fail this because he's quite happy. Actually, I don't... No, he won't, because I think that he doesn't know what you're doing. You haven't made it clear what he's doing or what you're doing. So we'll make a roll, but yeah, you still get a raise on your...
Oh, and you can apply modifiers based on their hindrances or state of mind. So.
Yeah, so I'm not going to apply any modifiers to it, and because you got a raise, he's completely unaware of what you've done. Okay. So why don't you give us a description of what it looks like when you use your mind control power? When you use your mental conductor. Well,
it's sort of like that device from Ghostbusters, and it's got some earphones on it, and I sort of tune in, and I sort of slowly tap into their mental dialogue, but I can also hear voices that they're imagining, and get a sense of sort of almost like a narrator's description of what they're seeing in their head.
Okay, like a play-by-play from a sports announcer or something like that.
Yeah, turns out when people think about things, they do have sort of an internal narrative that's going on in the background.
Sure. So he says, what you hear is, who am I? 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 They're coming. They're coming. Run. You got to run. Get help. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I?
Who are you?
He looks at you, and you've got your headphones on and your goggles on and stuff. And he says, who am I? Do you know? He looks kind of concerned. I know I'm in danger. I don't... Who
Tell
are
him
you?
to try and think of who's coming for him.
Who are you?
Yeah.
What are your names?
We are here to help. I'm Professor Mordecai.
And I'm Butch.
Butch and Professor Mordecai. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I want you to try to think very hard of who it is who's coming to try to get you.
So you start, there's the sort of like, trying to get the thing to tune in. And you hear again, just, they're coming. They're coming. He thinks they're coming. He's sure they're coming. Who am I? Who am I? He's sure they're coming. Who am I? Who are these men?
Why are they coming for you?
I don't remember. I don't remember. And he's looking at his hospital smoke. He's like, where did I get this? Did you give this to me?
No. It appears you just came from the hospital. Do you remember anything about the hospital?
No.
I think he's been lobotomized, Doc.
Yes, he seems pretty useless. Perhaps we... Yeah.
This here's. You got a healing check. Give me a healing roll, will you?
Sure. What's going on here? Healing. Beep.
Nice, with a raise too.
Hey.
See, you look at this guy, and you know what a lobotomy would look like, or any other kind of brain surgery. So you go over and you take this hat off this guy, and you grab him and you cock his head back, and you start looking in his eyes. You're like, no, there's nothing there, because that does seem to be the preferred method of lobotomy. I think, like, historically, this predates the popularity of the lobotomy. It was a surgeon named Martin Freeman, I think, who actually popularized it, and I believe it's in the 50s. So it's historically inaccurate, but who gives a fuck? So you can't see the things there. You pull back his nose, and you sort of, look in there and swab. There's no, blood or anything like that. And then you bring his head down and you look around. There's no signs of any incisions. There is that Band-Aid that's on there, and you pull that back, and it's a scrape it's covering. There doesn't appear to be any sign of any kind of brain surgery here, nor does there appear to be any kind of trauma to his head. With a raise, I'll give you, though, it's weird. It's like you feel his head. He has not shaved his head. All of his hair is gone. Like every single one, eyebrows included.
Perhaps this is done by electricity.
He looks up and he says, I was electrocuted?
Well, we don't know yet.
So they fried his brain?
You don't see any. There would be burn marks.
Right.
Sign of some kind of scorched skin, but his head is, apart from that one scratch, it's blemish free.
Maybe he's drugged.
Maybe.
Do you have anything you could give him?
Oh, I don't have much here. Maybe if we let him sleep for a while.
I can't. Will you watch? They are looking for me. I know it.
Yes, you should be safe here. No one saw you come in, as far as we know. Why don't you have a little nap? See if you feel better afterwards.
Sure. Give me. You're not trained in any kind of persuasion or anything like that. No. So why don't you?
I am.
Yeah. Well, I want to see what the result is from Professor McSorley, because I think it's going to be funny. Sure. So I'm just going to put down show. Okay, Steve, go ahead and make a roll for persuasion for me, please.
Alrighty.
I'll actually got to give you a modifier. It's
too slow.
-2. There we go.
Try again.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
-2. Nice.
Yeah, because you're untrained. Okay, so your wild dice didn't come up with success. So give us a description of just how creepily Professor McSorley has told him to just go ahead and lie down.
Why don't you have a nap just over here for a little while?
And you've got two like tools in your hand while you're saying that. His eyes go wide, and he looks over at you, Butch, and he's thinking, wait a minute, is it you guys who are after me? He doesn't say that, but he's got that sort of look on his face.
Now here, I see that he's like, a little bit unnerved by this. Here, come on next door to my place. I've got a couch you can lay down on. It's a little ratty, but it'll do.
Sure. Give me a persuasion check, please. There we go. Yep, absolutely. So he sort of looks over at you and says, that'll be fine. And his eyes sort of narrow, and he's like, what was your name again?
I'm Butch.
Butch. Thank you, Butch. All right. And he sort of turns around and looks at you, and Steve, you're cast in this weird, like, the bluish white light from your Jacob's ladder is sort of flashing, and you still got your goggles on, and it's reflecting back at him. And do you see anything before he leaves?
See you soon.
Okay, so this guy goes into your room, Butch. What does your room look like?
Again, also, very sparse. Hardly anything around, but he's got sort of a dresser that's clearly empty. The drawers are just sort of half open and nothing in it, but there is a picture on top of his parents.
Yep.
And he's got a ratty old couch and a matching chair that are, probably were thrown out at some point by some rich person after they'd been used for 50 years or something.
Yep. And
he's got a sort of a crappy bed. And so he sits. Well, did this guy? So he looks at him. He says, have you given us a name? Do you remember it?
Yes, it's no. No, I
Well,
don't-
no. Here you go. And he lays him down and he takes out this sort of like old blanket he's got and gives it to him on the couch.
Okay.
And then he goes over and he's got the one thing in the drawer. He pulls out a glass that he's got and some really crappy, bathtub gin or something that he's bought from someone in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And he sits down in the chair and pours himself a big glass of it and sits there watching this guy.
Okay. He pulls the blanket across him, and he sort of looks up at you and lays himself down, and he sort of, he eyes you warily once or twice, and then, closing his eyes in between, and then he completely drifts off to sleep.
Once I'm sure he's asleep, I finish my gin. I take the chair that I was sitting on and lift it up and quietly place it so it's blocking the door to my room. And then take off my suit carefully and go to bed as well.
Okay. Love that. Okay. So morning comes, and Butch, when your eyes open up, you can see, this guy is just standing, looking down at you, kind of questioningly, like as if he's struggling to figure something out.
Good morning, Nutter. It's Butch.
Butch. We've met.
Yes, we met last night.
I'm saying that with more certainty than he likely is. He probably does not remember. He's kind of guessing. We met?
Right. Yes, indeed, we met last night. What's wrong with you? Got the memory of a fly?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
I don't remember what's wrong with me.
All right, man. Sit for a second. I need to get ready.
And he sort of points to the chair, jammed under the doorknob, and says, "There or the
sit on the couch." And then Butch goes over. He's totally buck naked when he gets out of the bed.
Jeez. So he kind of looks away.
He's got to keep his suit perfect. So
would you make a notice check for me, please?
Sure. Notice.
Whoa,
yeah.
with a raise. Yes, you absolutely. Okay, so you look over, and one weird thing? This guy's got no 5 o'clock shadow.
Like no hair grow overnight at all.
Not at all. No.
Mm. After one night, it's just odd. It's not completely odd. Some people's hair grows quite slow. So
yeah, I think I picture Butch with his one hand was kind of doing looking at himself in the mirror, and then he sees his shining head in the mirror. He looks back, and you see that his face is as smooth as like a kid's. Not even a hint of any kind of a beard or mustache or anything like that growing in. And he's sitting there, and you can see him. He's looking at his hospital gown again, as if he's trying to figure out where the hell this came from. Around then, you hear a from one room over.
Oh, like a scuffle?
Something popping or small little coughing-ish explosions.
I move the chair. I open the door. I knock on Doc's door, and I say, "Doc, get out of bed. He's up. You got to find something for him to put on." And I duck into the toilet to pee and wash my face.
Okay. Professor, what is your morning routine like? What the coughing and popping that I was describing there, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
I was picturing that as your coffee maker.
Fair enough. Yes, I've got a coffee maker. Yes, so I drink some coffee and eat whatever leftovers I have, in the fridge. Maybe I have that, or do I have fridges? I guess not.
No, you would have ice boxes if you had a lot, money. So
But yeah, we got no money, so
Yeah.
I just sort of get up off the floor or wherever I sleep, and then put on my suit and have a cup of Joe.
Okay. So again, that's around when you're into your first cup of coffee is when you hear the knock at the door, and it's Butch says what Steve just said, or what Jeff just said.
Right. Well, let's have a look at him, shall we?
Okay.
So I'll go back over with him.
Do you have clothes for him to put on? Maybe
probably not.
even a pair of pants or anything. He's in a freaking hospital outfit.
Right. Well,
I only have the suit that I wear.
Yeah, right. I'm not much better. I don't really want to give this guy any pants. Maybe we should just take him back to the hospital. See what we can find out.
Okay. Butch comes back from the washroom. He's still naked.
Yep.
The dog's not too surprised seeing this.
As you're walking down to, you hear this kind of like from the other end of the hall, and there's a you look back and there's this woman who's got her hands over the eyes of her children, and you get the sense that her reaction, this is not the first time.
No.
So you sort of like, she tuts, and then you turn around and catch her a look, and she sort of loses her nerve, and then like turns and brings the kids inside while.
Good morning, Mrs. Jones.
You're slam as the door slams behind them.
Butch laughs.
So you make your way back in, and he's still sitting on the couch. There likely is, given the sort of poverty you're living in, it's probably not going to be too hard to maybe snag something off a clothesline somewhere. What I'd call, if you do want to get just a shirt for this guy, or a shirt and a jacket, actually probably just a shirt. I don't think they're hang drying their suits. If you wanted to try that, what I'd get you to do is make a stealth roll. Because it's the daytime, I think I'll give you -1 to the roll.
Or Kev, I think that Butch, there might be someone in the building that Butch thinks that has maybe some clothes that would fit him, and he'll go knock on his door and see if he can sort of intimidate him into just giving him a pair of pants and a shirt.
Sure.
Sort of like, Tom, you gotta loan me something.
Let's see what the skills are. I think, yeah, it's Streetwise is a skill, right?
Yep.
Yeah, give me a Streetwise roll.
Sure.
Holy shit, with a raise. Yeah, so you, who's the guy that you go and get this the clothing from?
Tom. He lives just down the hall.
Okay. And so I think Tom lives like opposite the stairs, maybe like kind of near the first flight that leads up. So you bang on the door. He answers the door. What does Tom do for a living?
Maybe Tom has an average job, like, so he's got a little bit of, he's not quite as desolate as maybe everyone else in the building. He's actually got a job, so maybe he's a driver, a taxi driver, or like a cab driver,
sure,
or a carriage driver.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay,
so he no, not a carriage driver. It's 1935. So.
Oh, yeah. So he's got a cab.
Yeah. So he answers the door, and Tom looks up. He's like, "Hey, Butch, what are you doing here?"
Tom, I'm in a real pickle.
Oh?
Yeah, I got some bloke that I ran into last night. He's in some kind of trouble. Need to borrow a pair of pants and a shirt from you.
What kind of trouble he get himself in? And he needs shoes and a. Oh. He ain't gonna shit in my clothes, is he?
No, I don't think so. Don't worry, Doc will get out any stains if there is a problem.
Oh.
Yes, with my stain remover.
I'll tell you what. You can borrow these on two conditions. One, I get him back clean. And two, he doesn't clean them. He points at Professor McSorley.
All right, you got it.
All right, let me see if I can find something in there. So he gets you a shirt and a pair of trousers. The guy, this memory or amnesiac guy, he does have trousers on. It's just that he doesn't have a shirt. So it's really just a shirt is what you need.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
And if you want to give him a jacket as well too, it won't match the trousers, but he can give him a jacket anyway.
Right, something to make him look a little more presentable.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Hold on here. Just want to check one thing because there are setting rules in effect here. I just want to decide that you rolled a 1 on. Oh, it's only both the trait and the wild die. Interesting. Okay. When you roll a 1 on the skill dice on some things, it can result in a critical failure. But I'd have to actually look up to see when that is, and it's not the critical failures for the setting. So, okay, so you get a jacket and a shirt for this guy, and he gets changed into this stuff, and he's like, "Whose clothes are these?"
Tom's. He's a friend of mine.
Am I Tom?
We can call you Tom if you like.
Okay. I don't remember, but okay.
Okay, Tom.
So, can you help me?
That's what we're aiming to do.
Okay. And he sort of like waits to see what you're going to do. So I'm imagining that Professor is in the room now with his coffee. So you and Butch can have a conversation about what to do here if you like.
Maybe
Well,
I was going to say maybe Butch has somewhere that he buys, a cheap breakfast sandwich from or something around here. So he'll get one for himself and for Tom.
Okay. Sure. There's probably like a street meat kind of vendor somewhere around here.
Yeah. Just something simple and cheap.
Tom is really not keen on leaving. He's really quite nervous. He's convinced that someone is coming to get him. He says he wants you to find out who he is. Who am I? If I can find out who I am, I can maybe find out why they want me.
And the tag on his wrist, he's got a hospital tag on his wrist, right?
Not on his wrist, just on the this predates plastics really. So it's
Right.
all you've got is the gown that identifies it as belonging to the New Orleans Hospital for Mental Diseases, which incidentally is, I believe, located somewhere in mid-city here.
Okay.
Let's double check here.
Why don't we head down to the hospital, Doc? Ask a few questions. See if they're missing somebody and if they'll spill any information.
If you guys zoom in right here at 11, I'm pinging there. That is where the Hospital for Mental Diseases is.
Okay. If they ask anything, we could say that we saw the man stumbling around in, Irish Town or somewhere.
Yes, and perhaps ask for his name so that we can go and get his attention.
Sounds good. We'll leave Tom at my place and head down to the hospital.
Excellent.
Okay. So you guys head down. You make your way across town, and moving from the what do you call it? From Treme into Mid-City is a pretty significant change. Like the Mid-City is certainly much more uptown and upscale than what you're used to. Treme is by far the worst of the neighborhoods, with a high concentration of rundown buildings than either of the other downtown neighborhoods. Let's see here. It's also the neighborhood with the highest concentration of visible minorities as well, in particular blacks. And that's been since the freeing of the slaves in 1860, or the 1860s, I should say. Mid-City, however, is sort of like a full of residential and professional businesses, marking the transition from the CBD is short for Central Business District, where the really old buildings and the old businesses are located, to Mid-City is sort of like, you can kind of picture like a much smaller scale 30s kind of Manhattan, not with the skyscrapers, mind you, but just with the sort of very similar looking buildings. In Mid-City, in this neighborhood, is where a couple hospitals are actually, as well as the Criminal District Court building and the parish prison. Old Police Headquarters is located in Mid-City as well, as is the Times-Picayune newspaper building. The City Hospital for Mental Diseases is a 3-story building that stands behind the prison. So the prison actually is adjacent to this hospital. It has kind of the same depressing, almost like brutalist architecture that the prison does, and probably not quite brutalist, but more a combination of brutalist and Gothic. So this place, for if the stated purpose of a hospital is to get people well, that is the absolute opposite of what this structure communicates. When you walk in, you're overwhelmed by the stark white of everything. The floors, the ceilings, the bright neon lights, and the sickly, like pea green that spackles the wall and is in places cracking. You're also hit with the sound of muffled sort of shouts and cries, and you can hit the scent that hits you is the overwhelming smell of antiseptic. So as you walk in, you're sort of looking around, and as you walk too, as people walk around, orderlies maybe pass by. You hear their footsteps sort of ring out like castanets, clack 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 clack, almost as if it was designed to dance on your last nerve. And you see that sitting behind this big imposing desk is a fairly portly nurse dressed in all whites with a big white bonnet, not bonnet, but like the little nurse's hat with the red cross across it. And she is officiously busy away with something you can't quite see from where you are. What are you guys going to do?
Well, I guess we look to get the attention of either the receptionist or one of the nurses.
Okay. You can do either. Which would you prefer? Like, there's probably nurses wandering around too. You can just try and grab one of the nurses if you want.
Yeah, I think we're less likely to get ourselves in trouble if we just talk to one of the nurses.
Okay. So one of the nurses is walking by, and what do you do? Like, how do you stop her? How do you get her attention?
Do you want to do it, or shall I?
I'll get her attention, and you can talk to her. Ma'am.
Okay, she looks over and she sort of like looks way up and to take you all in. Yes, sir.
Hi. We have a couple questions for you. Doc?
Okay, why don't you give me, do you have any modifiers to your charisma?
Charisma. Is that a basic skill?
No, it's not a skill. If you have any edges, there are edges that will modify your charisma. Otherwise, what it is
we only have one edge, remember.
Okay, so here we go. Just gonna roll to see what her reaction is. So 10. Okay. So she looks up at you and her eyes, she's fairly plain looking. She's probably in her maybe like early 30s. And she's got these big spectacles on, and her teeth are a little bit too big for her face, and her she's a little bit overweight. So she's clearly not someone who's, catching anyone's eye, but she's, whoa. Yes, sir. How can I help you? She's impressed with you.
Yes, we have a few questions for you, ma'am. Dog?
Are you trying to find the nurse's station? It's just, and sort of points over at that, Nurse Ratchet looking lady who's, working away behind the desk.
No, I'm sure these are some questions that you could help us with.
Me? Well, how could I help?
Well, you see, me and my friend here, the doc, we ran into a gentleman.
She looks over at the doc, and she says, "Are you trying to commit him?"
No.
No.
Now, your goggles on?
Yes. Always.
Oh, forgive me. I'm sorry.
No. The man we ran into, he seems to have been here at your hospital. He was wearing a gown with your name on it.
A gown with my name on it?
No, the name of the hospital, ma'am.
Oh.
Do you have any missing patients?
Okay, so give me what we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna use the patter rules and use this as sort of basically what you want to generate is 3 successes.
Okay.
And you're rolling against, it'll be your persuasion. I'm gonna give you a +2 to your persuasion because she is quite fond of you. And I rolled her, I think it will be opposed by her smarts. No, your persuasion is by her spirit.
Ooh, that's not a good roll.
That is actually still good enough. You don't get a raise from it, but I rolled a 1 for her.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so
it's contested.
It's contested, exactly. So you still actually succeeded. So she looks at you and says, "Oh, well, I can't reveal that kind of information. I don't even know who you are. I would get in trouble."
Oh, we're very concerned parties. Like I said, we found this man stumbling around a neighborhood on the streets. We're concerned for him.
Do you have him with you? And she sort of looks at Professor again, and she leans into you and says, "Is that the man?"
No, dear. Of course that's not him. This is the doc. He is my friend. We're concerned citizens.
Oh.
If you could give us some information, if there was a missing patient,
When
maybe
she looks,
we could help to retrieve him to the hospital for you.
When she looks over, Steve, what is the professor doing?
Sort of barring his teeth inadvertently while he sort of exhales through his teeth. It's just unfortunate sort of social mannerism.
He's got his goggles on and going
basically.
Okay, so she sort of looks and says, you take in all sorts of unfortunates then.
Yes, I have been known to befriend the unfortunate.
Why don't you give me another persuasion roll? So I rolled for her. I'll remind you guys, you got your bennies as well. That can be spent to re-roll or to... 1 second. Oh, I should get my actual... the Savage Worlds, or rather the Deadlands Noir DM screen is pretty cool, but I wish it had some of the basic rules listed on it, not just the setting rules. Kind of like you need a backup DM screen for your DM screen. So I'm basically building a little fort around me next time we play. Okay, so she looks up at you and says, well, if you are... It's just a man? What is he... Do you know what his name is?
No, we managed to speak to him, but he couldn't remember anything. The only identifier that I could give you is that he's bald.
He's bald.
And not just bald of head, but he seems to be completely bald.
Okay.
His body.
His body. Well, let me... Well, I can... I'm sorry. I don't even know your name.
Oh, yes, nor do I know yours. Nurse, I'm Butch.
My name is Megan. Megan Carruthers.
Well, Megan, don't you think that a couple of nice fellows like myself and the doc could be of assistance to the hospital here?
She sort of looks over at the professor a little questioningly. What's he doing right now, Steve? So he tries to like freaky smile at her again.
Exactly.
And she looks up at you, then Butch, and you've got this. What are you doing?
He's giving her sort of this sweet smile. He can tell that she kind of likes him a little bit, so he's
Yeah.
He's playing
Okay,
it up a little bit.
So she sort of, well, I suppose if it's helping someone who is in need of help, then Butch, I'd be happy to do it, but it's Nurse Higgins. She'll see if I take a look at the it's not her struggling. I'm trying to remember the word for this. It's not roster.
I see. She's gonna go. She needs to go look it up.
Yeah.
But Nurse Higgins is in the way.
Yeah. So I think that she's sort of implying it. If you're able to, she'll check the records,
Right.
the admittance records. If you can distract her.
Yes. Megan, I'm all aboard. We shall see what we can do.
Thank you. And she sort of walks over, and she's got a little clipboard with her. And she sort of walks to the side and is as trying to be inconspicuous.
Should I try to describe? Oh, sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say I could try to distract the other.
Yeah, sure. If you got an idea,
Sure.
Go for it.
Nurse Ratchet.
So
Yeah.
Butch, you're maybe about to try something, and then Professor McSorley is like, "I got this." What are you going to try, McSorley?
Hello, nurse.
Okay.
Could I trouble you for a moment?
She looks at you. Says, "Who are you?"
I am Professor Mordecai McSorley.
Her eye sort of eyebrow cocks up. She says, "And?"
And I have some questions about the ongoings at this institution.
What
questions? We have encountered an individual from these premises who lacks all bodily hair. This seems like a very curious state of affairs. Do you happen to know anything about it?
Why do you ask?
Because I am a professor of healing and many other various arts, and it is within my purview to be concerned about the general well-being of people at institutions such as this.
Butch has sort of maneuvered himself around so that the doc can see him, but the nurse can't. Yep. And he's trying to like pantomime indicate to the doc to get her away from the desk.
Okay.
So he's like, trying to act it out.
She leans forward and says, so you're concerned with the inhabitants of this institution?
Indeed I am. I would, if it is okay with you, like to conduct a quick inspection of the premises. Perhaps you would care to escort me to some of your facilities.
Oh, I think we can have you escorted to the facilities. And she sort of looks over to the side, and you see that the door sort of opens up, and these two fucking bruisers who look like they're about the same size as what Butch is. They're wearing hospital scrubs that are like 5 sizes too small for them. So they're just like splayed across them. And these two guys with each of them has their hair parted with a it's as if a bullet hit the side of their heads. And they're sort of like, and start stomping towards you. And you quickly look down and you see one of them's got a straitjacket in his hand.
Now, ma'am, I can verify everything that I'm saying, and I would hate to have to report you to the authorities for mismanagement of human resources.
She's got this look on her face of like, and she's nodding away. And these two bruisers are getting closer, and she looks over at them and sort of does a like, yeah, that's the one right here, and points at you.
Shoot. I draw my my pistol. My
what does your pistol look like?
It's got sort of 2 prongs on it, and it's sort of got a blue casing, and then a big sort of thick cable that comes out of the butt end of the gun, and then leads into sort of a power pack in my back.
Okay, that's awesome. She kind of, what do you say as you pull this thing out?
I say, that's far enough. I am exactly who I say I am.
Okay, the two guys. Well, give me an intimidate check.
Okay, I don't have intimidation, but let's go.
Just click on persuasion again, because it'll be the same thing as like a D4 -2 plus a wild die.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you bring it out. The 2 big guys sort of look at each other, and they start closing in on you. So I think they're going to. I'm going to draw cards here for all 3 of us. So this was for Professor. Boom, with 2. Oh, that's not good. For Butch, a 9 of hearts, and for the orderlies, a 9 of diamonds. So it goes in reverse alphabetical order, which means that 9 of diamonds goes first before 9 of clubs. Oh no, it doesn't. Clubs go, or that's clubs. Hearts will be after diamonds. So these 2 guys.
You said reverse alphabetical.
It's reverse alphabetical. Yeah.
Yeah. So hearts is after diamonds in the alphabet. So
oh yeah, right. Of course. I'm an idiot. Okay, so you're up first.
Oh, nice.
These 2 big burly dudes are going to be coming in on the professor.
They don't really know that I'm with him at this point.
They do not know, and actually, the distraction that you were looking for has been provided.
And so I can see Megan is looking up the information currently.
If you sort of gesture to her to like go, she'll do
okay. So yeah, I'm madly gesturing to Megan to like go for it. Get the information, and at the same time, I sort of put myself in a position where I'm sort of one round move away from the professor.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So are you trying to be inconspicuous?
Yeah, I'm not trying to be like I'm with him, but if I see that he's in trouble, I'm only 1 round.
Yeah, just give me. Why don't you give me a? I think a stealth check, and what this will be is just to whether they're going to sort of pick up that like, hey, he's not alone, or whether they're just going to ignore you.
Okay. So it's -2.
Or are you untrained in stealth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just added the -2.
Okay. So yeah, they can see that you're with him. So I'm gonna make a spirit check for them just to see if how they react, because they actually might pause for a second if they see you. Yeah, they both actually. So the two of them, once you sort of step forward, the two of them are coming forward and they sort of stop when they see you and are sort of like trying to judge what to do here, because now that they know he's not alone.
Right.
That doesn't, just because you've been spotted though, it doesn't prevent Megan from grabbing the the chart that she needs and sort of like scribbling down something on her what do you call it, clipboard that she's got.
Okay.
Okay. So then on there, so they're going to be recovering this round. They're sort of sizing up the situation. What are you doing, Professor?
This is your final warning. Do not approach me.
Okay.
And
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Maybe I fire a warning shot with my gun.
So what does the shot look like?
So this sort of streaking arc that kind of flows out randomly and scores the ground in front of them.
Awesome. Give me a weird science roll, please.
Weird science.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So yeah, you. I'm not even going to make you make an intimidation roll. You sort of, and you carve this sort of like semicircle in front of them. And the two of them, they're not going to do fuck all to you. You spare a feral look back towards Nurse Ratchet, and she's got a look of like sure like shock and perplexity and perplexion. That's not the fucking adjective. What is the what I'm thinking of?
Perplexity. Perplexity,
maybe. Yeah, that sounds about right. On her face, where she's just not sure what to make of this. You, Butch, spare a quick look back, and you can see that Megan has a sheet for you, and she sort of looks at the Nurse Ratchet, or I can't remember what her name's now. Whatever I gave it. So which?
I think you said it was Higgins.
Nurse Higgins. That's right. Yeah. So Nurse Higgins and the guys, and she's crumples something up and then tosses it on the ground, and then turns and sort of walks away, and then spares a look back at you, and then down at the piece of paper. So let's see who's acting next here. We've got, boom, the bad guys, and then Professor, boom, and Boocha. All right, so it looks like we've got Professor, and then bad guys, and then Boocha. I've seen Pulp Fiction far too many times, so I'm never going to not call you Boocha. Professor, what are you doing?
I start to back away and I say, let that be a lesson to you. Humanitarians come in all shapes and sizes.
That is so good. You get a Benny for that. That's fucking great. You turn and go scampering away, or what?
Basically. I'm sort of back away.
Your giant backpack is sort of like going back and forth. That's so good. Oh fuck. Okay, so like they're gonna have to spend a turn trying to recover from being shaken. I'm just gonna say they're shaken by this. Nope, they're sort of like looking over at Nurse Higgins and at you. Remember, guys, that the way damage works in this is first, if you exceed their toughness, they become shaken, or you can use different kinds of social interactions. I'll make sure you guys refer to your deluxe Savage World Handbook, which would have the rules for tests of will. If you guys have it, that is on page 86 of the Explorer's Edition. And what it is basically, if you succeed, you make a test of will. If you succeed, then they are shaken. No, sorry, if you get a raise, they're shaken. If you succeed, they get +2 to their on their next action. So +2 difficulty. So what I've done, Steve, is just said that your weird science roll was a test of will against them.
All right, thanks.
So yeah. So that's fucking hysterical. So you go racing out the door. Butch, what are you doing?
He just gives a quick glance at everyone so as not to make it obvious that he's, sort of glancing at Megan. And then he says, "Don't worry, we'll see ourselves out.
Okay.
Thank you for your time."
And the piece of paper that's been thrown on the ground.
Oh, he bends down and picks it up.
Okay. Do you let them? Are you trying to hide that from anyone, or you don't really give a shit?
He kind of doesn't give a shit at this point.
Okay. So you bend down, pick it up, and walk out. They don't do anything to try and. It's only like when you're getting close to the actual main doors. You've walked across that white tile under those awful fluorescent lights, net past those pea green cracked painting walls. At this point, there's a small crowd that's sort of watching in awe. And then finally, Nurse Higgins, as you're about to step out the door, finally finds her nerve again and says, "What are you waiting for? Get him!" But you spare just a quick look back, and the two of them sort of like they're not doing a fuck all. So you turn and you walk out the door, no problem. Professor, because you don't have a fucking getaway car.
No.
Professor?
No.
Professor McGonagall is McSorley, so I keep McGonagall. Professor McSorley is I'm picturing about a block up to your left, and he's trying to reholster his pistol on the backpack, but he's having difficulty and sort of like chasing himself in a corner in a circle. Trying to follow it around, trying to come on, you gotta, come on. What are you gonna do?
Butch walks over and he says, "Well, that wasn't the low-profile operation that I was hoping it would be. But we got something." And he holds up the piece of paper.
Okay.
Good enough.
So, where do you want to read this? We can sort of cut scenes. Do you want to maybe like a diner or something like that, or?
They'll head back to their apartment.
Okay. So you get back. If you have, we'll say you saved it, just like TV, you saved looking at the thing until you get to the apartment for some fucking reason.
Right. He tucks it in his pocket and heads back to the...
Sure. So as you guys are making your way down, we cut back inside briefly, and we see Nurse Higgins sort of looks down and she sees that the folder, like the admittance folder, is open, and she looks down and sees that it's sort of open to one. It's like like a file folder. Those like the file folder things that have the little clips on the side, so you can slide them along on like little rails.
Right.
So it's open to one, so it's evident what file it's open to. She looks and sort of pulls this thing out, looks out the door, snorts, pulls something out of there, plunks it down, and then she picks up the phone, dials it. I guess it's not fucking the 1800s. It's a normal phone. And she's, "Yes. It's Higgins. Sorry, I'm calling from the New Orleans Hospital for Mental Diseases. I was told to call if anyone inquired about the John Doe." "Yes." "Yes." "Oh, yes. He gave his name as Professor Malachi McSorley." And then we cut. You guys inside, you're walking into the room, and you can see that as you guys walk in, Amnesia Tom turns around and looks at you guys, and he sort of, you can tell from the look in his eyes that he doesn't quite know who you are.
All right.
Do you say anything, or?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It's no point in
So
explaining ourselves to him.
he's backing away, and he says, "Who are you?"
Butch, Professor, get with it.
Get with what?
With who we are. We've met many times. You're sitting in my apartment.
This is your apartment.
This is my apartment.
And you see he's holding that picture of your family, like he's been looking at it.
I take it from him. This is not your family. This is my family. And I put it back on the dresser.
I'm sorry, Butch. I don't
Butch.
remember who I am, but I know that someone's after me.
Well, maybe this will help. And he pulls out the little piece of paper.
Okay. He looks at the paper. What's that?
Not a clue. And he unfolds it.
Okay. So you unfold it, and there is a little bit of handwriting on it. What it says is name John Doe. It says dropped off by taxi, and there's a date that is 2 days ago. It's an evening, but that's the only information. Though there is a name with a telephone number that is surrounded by a heart. So Nurse Megan is keen on Butch giving her a call. So.
Maybe we have to. This is getting complicated, says Professor. Perhaps it. Yep.
Oh, so I say Amnesia Tom sort of looks at you and says, What's on your back?
A power station. That is none of your concern.
Is it? And he looks at you, Butch. Is it safe?
Well, safe enough for you right now.
Okay. So what do you guys want to do? Sorry, Steve, I interrupted you.
Not at all. I'm saying, well, if we're going to continue with this, it looks like our only lead so far is going back to perhaps the taxi company. See if we can find out what they know.
Yes. That's a good idea. Why don't we pay Tom another visit?
Sure. Give me a streetwise roll. No modifiers.
Ooh.
Me too?
No, Butch is the one who's... we've sort of established that Butch has got a contact with Tom, and Tom doesn't seem to really trust you all that much.
All right.
You could try, though. I mean, like, there's nothing... so you go over... Oh, you failed in a 1. And the door... Tom answers the door, and you can hear from inside there's this shouting. Who is that? It's his wife is screaming at him. And he looks up. Says, hey, Butch. You don't happen to be finished with those clothes, do you? And you hear from somewhere else in the room, if he's asking for more clothes, you can tell him he can go and buy his own clothes. What are you thinking, giving him your clothes? He sort of looks fairly sheepishly at you, like, I don't suppose you're done with it, are you?
Well, not unless you want the man with it.
He sort of looks back and says, no, I don't think that would help matters. What do you want, Butch?
We got a serious problem here with this gentleman.
You think there's a serious problem? You tell him he's going to have a real problem if he doesn't get that shirt back to you clean.
He'll have it back in a day or two.
And Tom sort of looks up and he's like, that's not going to help. So, what is it? Look, I gotta go deal with.
Look,
with
what
this.
time are you at work?
Oh, I'm at this, am I? You get yourself back in here. And he sort of looks at you like, oh. I'm sorry, Butch. I'm sorry. And he's just shaking his head. And then he's about to close the door. And then he says, can you just get that back to me as soon as you can?
Yeah.
And the door closes. So, unfortunately, he is a bit of a dead end here for the now, and perhaps a dead man quite soon, too. Can you think of another way to Steve? What was your suggestion for the professor?
Oh, I didn't have one for talking. We're talking to Tom.
Well, no, we could try something else.
Right. Because Tom is your contact. Why were we talking to Tom?
He's a cab driver.
He's a cab driver, right?
You could just just to give you some ideas of what mechanically you can do. You can still you could just make a streetwise check, and then depending on your success, one second here, because if you look at the setting rules, you use legwork, which is using streetwise for hit up the pool halls or at the cab stations. The cab stands where the cabs are waiting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that?
That was sort of my thinking. Yeah.
You get the information regardless. Just as an FYI, too, if you fail, then you have to shell out 5 times 1d4 in dollars in bribes, and you get roughed up a little to boot, taking a fatigue level from bumps and bruises.
Do you have streetwise as well, Steve?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What's your dice?
D4.
Okay, so it's the same.
Okay, so if you succeed, you dodge the beating, but you still have to part with some of your cash, as before. If you get a raise on it, you get the information for free, no damage, no what do you call it? No injury, no cash.
Right.
So, who'd like to try the legwork?
Well, why don't you roll for it, Steve? Because I just failed there.
All right, here we go. Time to get beat up.
Big money. Oh, look at that!
Check it out.
Nice.
Buck and a raise.
You betcha.
Okay, so yeah, Steve, I'll let you narrate it. Like, what's the scene we see as he's going around getting this information? Why does he get away without paying anything? Or
there's he goes to a cab shop, and he goes in to speak to sort of the manager, who's sitting around with a bunch of other cabbies, and they're just having a few drinks, and they all find Professor Mordecai quite amusing, and don't take him that seriously, but ultimately it sort of give him a hard time. But Professor keeps asking questions, and ultimately makes it clear that there's a guy who's lost his way from the hospital. So they kind of go, oh, all right, shucks, and they say, and then there's the one guy who sort of actually drove. The guy happens to be there, and sort of is able.
I'll let you do that. Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and is able to relate, whatever he happens to know.
Yeah, sure. So we sort of see that cutscene and whatnot, and then Butch, you're hanging back, and the professor is in deep conversation with this guy he's in his I think like probably mid 40s, late 40s. He's short, squat, overweight. He's got that like sort of what do you call it? Not the tam. It's that sort of like little brimmed cap, soft flop cap on. He's got 5 o'clock shadow. His name is Sal, and the professor sort of gestures for you to come over. And as he walks over, Professor says that, well, Sal, go ahead, tell him what you told me. And he looks up and he says, well, you mentioned that this guy, a bald guy getting dropped off at the nut house. Yeah, I dropped off that. I picked him up in a place just off of Claiborne in Uptown. You know, he seemed a little off his nut, so I took him to the hospital. You know, you guys are friends of his?
Associates.
Associates. Well, I guess that's close enough. Listen, he forgot something in the car, and he goes over and he pops the trunk, and he pulls. Amalou, hey, no peeking. Emmy, hey, Emmy, get down. Hey, no, don't listen. I should try reverse psychology. Keep barking. Keep barking. Give him shit. That's right. There we go. He goes in the trunk and pulls out something, and it's a jacket, and it's a jacket that matches his the trousers that Amnesia Tom's been wearing.
Mm.
And he hands them over to you. He says, "You'll get this back to him, eh?"
Yeah, for sure.
Just, say, he ain't involved in that murder, is he?
What murder's that?
You ain't heard about that? And Sal goes over and reaches in his into the front seat, and he says, "Hold on here," and he pulls it out, and boom, there's a newspaper, and he flips through, and about maybe 2 pages in, he flips it over, and he says, "There." And he points to this story, and the story says that there's a resident of a house that was found dead this morning, apparently by a shotgun blast to the head. The paper reports that the man, a city commissioner, was alleged to have ties to organized crime.
Not anything we know about.
Well, you'll get that back to him, won't right?
Will do.
All right. Well, thanks. What do you guys want to do?
Stop somewhere on the way home and pick up a cheap shirt.
Okay. So, do you know the cost? Whatever the cost is, were you looking in the
literally the cheapest shirt I can find.
Sure. Let me see here. Where is it here?
You give a bum $1 for his shirt.
Well,
I think $1 is actually a pretty.
Probably a lot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's got some good. I think purchase value or purchasing.
5 cents.
Here we go. Okay, so let's see. So a shirt normally is $2.50. So it's like a shitty. Yeah, maybe it's $1 actually.
okay. I'll spend $1 and pick up a shirt.
Okay. So you got a shirt for him, and you got the jacket. What do you want to do?
Head back home.
Okay. So you get back home, and I'm not going to go through it again, but you go through the same repeat process with Amnesia Tom. You walk in the door, and he turns and looks at you, has no idea who you are.
I get him to change his shirt. So take off Tom's shirt and put this one on that I bought.
Okay.
And while he's doing that, I check the jacket pockets to see if there's anything in them.
Sure. You go over the jacket pockets. You empty them out. The interior pockets, the sort of side pockets, and there's nothing in them whatsoever. But
okay.
As you're looking through them, though, you look inside and you can see that there is a laundry mark.
Like as in
like there's a specific laundromat has marked this.
Okay, what's the name?
You're not sure. These things are not keyed by.
Oh, it's a mark.
Yeah. Oh no, you can find out. Sorry, yeah, it's a laundromat that's actually located in Mid City, so not too far from where you guys are.
Okay. So I give him his jacket, and I smell the shirt to see how bad it is.
It's not that it's stink. Oh, do you mean Tom's shirt or?
Yeah, Tom's shirt. I'm gonna go give Tom his shirt back.
It's not bad. I mean, like it's no. Like, this guy's been wearing it for a day, but you know.
Right. I'm not gonna bother to wash it.
Okay, so you bring that and the jacket back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you knock on the door, and again you hear the "Hey, tell him!" and someone's screaming in the other room. He opens the door and looks and says, just kind of nods and takes it from you. Doesn't even ask if it's been laundered, and then closes the door.
Okay, perfect.
You can have a Benny for that too. That was funny. So you head back in. Professor, you had some time alone with Amnesia Tom. Anything you want to talk to him about, or you want to wait until Butch gets back?
Well, I can tell that there's not much point talking to him. He can't remember anything. Maybe I just sort of check his brains to see if he can remember anything. Do you remember who was after you?
No.
Okay.
Can you help me remember?
Huh. Well, I mean, I could sort of try to. No, this would be stunting my mind reading thing. See if I can read his memories. Could I do that?
You've already tried to read his memories, but you
Yeah.
can't. He's got no memories. That's the difficulty.
Okay.
So you're sort of hooking stuff up to his head and sort of adding more, wires to it when Butch walks in. Butch, this is around the time when Professor McSorley's things blow up. So, what do you do?
I think that we should go check out this laundromat, see if we can get any information from them.
Okay.
Maybe we should bring Tom to see if the laundromat recognizes him.
Yeah, if we can get him out of the apartment, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, until he's really not keen on doing that. You could physically, I mean, he's much smaller than you. You could physically remove him if you want, but he's
we'd
really
be dragging him around.
Yeah, he's really quite scared of it.
Okay.
Because it's just going to be difficult to. I mean, I guess we could just describe him to the laundromat, see if they remember him.
I think the fact that he's hairless is a striking feature. That does he have eyebrows, Kev?
He does not. No.
Okay, yeah, that people would notice him for sure.
Right. Okay, well,
Kev, I don't see anywhere on the sheet where it has bennies.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Not on the sheet. Hold up, let's see.
I was just gonna type it in somewhere, but
yeah, we could just do it in one of the empty slots there, like XP rank or something.
Wounds, fatigue. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
That is bullshit. Some serious bullshit.
So how many would we have supposed to have started with?
You start with 3 bennies.
Okay, so we would have 4 now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that's XP per rank. You could stick it in there.
That's not because that's how much XP you.
If you go to the All tab, the very last one.
Yep.
There's a spot just below your main attributes that just says physical appearance and personal history. You can just type in there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Or
just type
Benny.
in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, you guys head out and grab your stuff, and you're starting to make your way out. Would you guys kindly make a notice roll for me, please?
Noticing.
Bam.
Okay.
Kapow. Oh, boo.
Okay, so Butch, as you guys are leaving, Professor McSorley is quite keen on catching the bus. So he's sort of like, come on, come on. And I don't know, I was going to say streetcars, but honestly don't know whether. I think there are streetcars in New Orleans just because of there's this one photo we've got here of the French Quarter that shows tracks in the ground. You see right here where I'm pinging?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So even it's a bus or a streetcar or something like that you're going to be picking up, and what you're about to you sort of cross the street and you're starting to walk down, and you hear just out of the sort of just in the faintest edge of your hearing, I guess you hear sort of a screech, like a short stop, and you look back, and what you see is there's this kind of maroon colored sedan, and these two doors open up and then are slammed behind, and there's two burly looking dudes of Italian persuasion dressed in sharp suits who have just parked in front of your tenement, and one of them is sort of stalking forward into the garden outside of your building, and the other one's coming around the vehicle to join him as well.
Hmm.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
You're going to walk up to them?
Yeah, you guys are across the street right now.
Oh, I see.
We could.
So
wait a second. So are they coming after us?
This is no. They're going into your building. You're across the street. You're running for a bus or something like that right now.
Right.
And Butch was with you, but he just heard the last second he heard that screech, turned back and saw that. So you guys are about a block away right now. But these guys seem intent on going in there. Butch, both of you guys can give me actually it's only Butch because only Butch has seen it so far. Butch, give me a streetwise check, please. Let's see how savvy you are about the underworld of holy shit. That's
I would
awesome.
actually say potentially I've seen these thugs. They've played in my game before.
Yes, you have. Yeah, I love that. And that they are part of the Black Hand, which is sort of like the local Sicilian mafia.
Mm.
What the hell are they doing here? They're going into your building for sure.
Professor, I think there's a good chance they're looking for our John Doe.
Is that so? Perhaps we'd better go back. I draw my... can I read their brains from here?
I think by this point, from what you guys have said, they would have actually walked out of view, and they're into the garden right now. Like, you're gonna have to sort of hustle to get back.
Okay. Yeah, let's head back.
Yeah, and I'm picturing it sort of like late afternoon at this point, guys, just because of you've spent the day going to the hospital and then like tracking down this cabbie and then chatting with the cabbie.
Yeah, sundown. That's a good time for a showdown.
Yeah. Okay, so you go across the street. You sort of wait for an opening. You race across the street, and I think that by the time you get to the garden, they've gone inside your building.
Okay.
So what are you going to do? It's sort of and the door is sort of swinging, and this what do you call it? I always call it the wheeze catch, but I've actually subsequently learned that's not a thing. So the sort of like the door whatever thing that prevents it from slamming is just sort of actually no, this is a shitty tenement. It probably slams. Bam, the door slams shut. What are you guys going to do?
I guess just head straight for our apartments.
Okay. So who's in the lead here, guys? Sounds like actually Professor is.
With my pistol drawn? Sure, why not?
Okay, so Professor is leading the charge here, Butch. So you go racing in, you throw the door open, and you can see as you throw the door open, you can hear the sound of these guys calling out, "Hey, Professor McSorley, come out here. Get out here now, Professor. We want to have a chat with you." And they're about partway down the corridor, sort of like banging on doors as they're going. Tom is, of course, one of the first ones who's there. He sort of opens the door and sees them and kind of, slams the door behind him. And they turn around and they're like, "Hey, was that?" And then they see you standing there. And why don't we draw some initiative cards here? So I think, Butch, you're sort of, so I'll do Professor. This is you first. Boom.
Oh, baby.
What happened?
I don't know.
I don't think I drew a proper card. Boom, Professor. And Butch. Boom. Oh,
what
God,
the heck? Wait a second.
It's here. Bad guys. Ooh.
Sick.
They are up first. Okay, so the two of them sort of see Professor McSorley, who's sort of wide in the open here. Let me get a second here. Stats for these dudes. They both draw their pistols, and they say, let's see here. "All right, Professor, you're coming with us." And what they're going to do is do a test of will. So, Steve, give me, hold up here. Where's dope. I think I need a spirit check from you.
Very good.
Check here.
Spirit check. All right, spirit.
Yep. So give me a spirit roll, and I'll roll for their intimidation. Okay, actually didn't roll terribly well. Ooh. So yeah, they sort of draw their guns, trying to sort of intimidate you into surrendering, and you, like, these guys do not phase you at all. You sort of like get that same, I think I'm picturing it, that same creepy like that you were doing before. You're doing that. So yeah, actually, so that they're up first. It's your turn, Professor. What are you doing?
I say, "Gentlemen, I will be doing no such thing, but you will."
But they will.
But you will tell me what it is that you wish to know, and quickly.
Okay. Are you trying to like scare them into doing that, or persuade them into doing that, or what?
Well, we got a bit of a Mexican standoff here, so let's see.
So one of the things you can do, so just to give you some mechanical context to this, guys, what you can do is, of course, you can do a test of will, which is you're using your intimidate or your taunt to try and like try and cause them to either have a penalty to their next action or to make them shaken. You can also use patter, which is sort of like that's using your chatter to sort of diffuse a tense situation without shooting. You can use intimidation for tough talk, persuasion for softer or more reasoned approach, or taunt if you're looking to knock the guy down a few notches and talk him in circles. And then what you do, you make a contested roll, and depending on the margin of victory, that determines what their response is going to be. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I
so
like it. Yep.
So you could use patter, or which is, again, it's something that's specific to the setting where you're trying to get them to cooperate with you.
Yeah,
Right.
I like that idea, although it probably won't work very well. But
so you can use either intimidation for tough talk, persuasion for softer or more reasoned approaches, or taunt if you're trying to knock the guy down a few notches. Sounds to me like taunt is what you were doing.
I suppose so. Yeah, it was. Why not?
Okay. So are you trained in taunt at all?
No.
Of course you're not. But what I could let you do, Steve, is if you wanted to try and use your weird science again, what I'll give you is a -2 penalty to using that, and you'll have to use up one of your charges. Remember, each of your patent science devices has 10 power points.
Right.
And in the time between when you use that first shot before, let's see here, your blast would be, I think it uses 2 power, doesn't it? Is that right?
Is that right? Let me see here.
Power, yeah. Your Voltronic jumper, no, cost is 1.
Yeah, that's right. It is 1
for just a 2d6 bolt, and then you can do up to 3 bolts for that same amount, or you can supercharge 1 for 2 power points to do 3d6.
Alrighty.
So what do you think?
All right. Well, let us.
I think you only need to do 1 to make your weird science roll.
Okay. Yeah. Let's score the floor again in front of them and just make the Mexican standoff element of this clear.
Okay. So give me a weird science roll, and it'll be your difficulty is going to be actually no. I make their roll, and I'll add +2 to their result.
Okay.
Okay. So you're using taunt, which is against their smarts, which is probably a good thing because they are.
Not
more thugs, mental midgets may be a way of putting it. Okay, 5. Let's see if I can beat a 5. I cannot.
Yay.
All right, so you only beat it by 1, which means extras without a personal stake in the matter or an allied wild card are likely to step aside or allow for the hero's request. So I don't think that's quite good enough. So you say your thing, and then you sort of scorch the ground. They do not appear to be complying. They look like they're readying their guns again. Butch, what are you doing?
Let's see. Maybe I'll try and taunting them.
Okay. So what do you say?
He, like I said before, Butch has got this, shoulder holster where he reaches into the sleeve of his missing arm and he pulls out his Colt and he stares at them and he says, "The professor may have missed on purpose, but I don't." And I draw my gun on them.
Okay, I'll make their. Okay, I made their smarts roll. Holy shit!
Whoa!
Nice.
Yeah, so that's fucking. You beat it by more than 6, which means only wild cards with everything to lose refuse to back down or give in to the Gumshoe's appeal. So what this means is that you will now have the drop on the on these guys if they choose to try and attack you. And what the drop means is, let's see here. The drop is you get plus, so you're considered to be on hold, and you give +4 to your attack and damage if you decide to strike. So these guys do anything, you're assuming to have held an action, and both of you guys can make an attack at +4 to hit and +4 to damage.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, so you guys have these guys like really over a barrel. So
Right.
he sort of the two thugs are sort of look at each other and look at you. And they say, "Where is that guy? The bald guy. Where is he?
What do you want with him?"
It's family business. He killed one of our guys. He's got to pay."
Are you sure it was him? He doesn't seem to be too clear in the head.
The other guy says, "You think there's a lot of guys that look like him? Huh?"
Well,
Now you just you turn him
Well, is
over.
there a reward for this man?
Yeah, the reward is you don't get trouble with the Black Hand.
Well, why don't you gentlemen also agree to come down to my game tomorrow night and spend a little extra cash?
They sort of look at you, and they sort of look at each other as if they're sort of weighing things over, and then one of them sort of starts shaking and trembling, and there's spit that starts coming out of his mouth. The one guy says, "Tony?" And he starts shaking as well too. The two of them are dropped to the ground and are just completely writhing
Having
around
a seizure.
tremors. One of their guns goes off. Doesn't hit anybody, but their muscles are all spasming. They're foaming at the mouth.
I run over and keep their guns out of their hands, if
Okay, so
possible.
try and get forward. Yeah, you can do that easily. And then they both sort of suddenly tense up. And their heads explode.
What?
Jesus.
The two of you look up, and you can see Amnesia Tom standing at the end of the hallway. Again, a look of confusion on his face. He says, You're not with them, are you?
No, of course not. We were stopping them. Butch gives the professor a look like, I didn't just try to sell him. Don't worry.
He sort of is looking at you guys, and you can't tell. His eyes narrow a little bit, and you can't tell if he believes you. And you'll have to find out in 2 weeks' time.
Nice.
So, for those listening at home, let me just get out of my camera back working again here.
See you next time, Spider-Man.
Yes, I'll see you. All right, let's see here. Let's go to. I was going to do something here. See if I can get out of. There we go. Is my camera working again now? I don't know what's going on now. It freezes up my my camera. Logitech. Oh, there we go. Now it's working again. Weird. Okay, so sorry for those listening at home. Thank you so much for joining us for this first excursion to the dark and dingy streets of the Big Easy. We will see you again 2 weeks' time. We'll wrap up this mystery and see if we can find out, or the guys can find out, who Amnesia Tom is, and we'll see the continuing adventures of Professor McSorley and Butch playing Deadlands Noir. So thanks, and we'll see you again soon.